Hello everyone, my name is Shelby and this is the series where I reveal what is inside these mystery pottery molds I found on Gumtree. Hello and welcome to mold 42. We've got a rather heavy, larger mold today. It doesn't look that big, but it's actually really heavy, and it's going to be even heavier when I fill it up full of clay. So I pour the first side up. It actually has the same holes on the other side. So I pour this one up, tip out the excess, flip it over once it's sort of dry enough to put on the bench again, and then pour it up, tip it out again. I really enjoyed this footage because I am really weak. I don't have the biggest upper body strength, and so holding this up and waiting for all the bits to drip out was really hard. And I was just like laughing at myself and my struggle on camera. You'll see it here, but I'm rather excited to see what's inside this one. I actually had to crop this footage because I accidentally had a mystery mold in the back on the left there. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it still is a really nice frame. It doesn't look too blurry now that I had to crop that out. But opening it up to reveal 8 beautiful strawberry pieces. They are dainty little, dainty, that's not the right word. They are quirky little strawberry characters, and they are so delightful. So this is a quick look at the mold. So if you're looking for this mold or want to use this mold or try and find it, so it's D899. It's got the arrows to show where to put it together. And then on the other side, it says Chuckleberries Character Strawberries by Donna's Molds. So we've done a few Donna's Molds so far, and they have all been these whimsical, quirky little characters that sort of come to life when you paint them and bring them together. So we've done the sunflowers, we've done the mushroom critters. I think there's been a few other ones as well that have been Donna's. So I really like the Donna's molds so far because they're really my style. I love seeing like objects that you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't look twice at come to life as its own beautiful character, as if, yeah, like a magic potion has brought them to life, like a character in Beauty and the Beast or something like that. And I have always loved making that sort of pottery, bringing, Australian fauna, flora to life. So I love these molds because, they're just so on brand for what I love. So with these pieces, I wanted to paint them really efficiently, but I also, I feel like you could do a lot with these, but I was under a time constraint this week. So I did a really simple paint job to sort of highlight them as strawberries, as what strawberries look like. So your pinks and reds and then the greens to bring it to life. So to paint them efficiently, what I did was I used a fine liner brush and went around all the areas that I didn't want to be pink with a slightly larger brush. You could do this with anything. I went in and filled the gaps between all the fine line. So then once I had that base down, I could go in with a really thick brush and efficiently cover the whole area and do it as quickly as possible. It's just about working smarter, not harder. So here you can see the footage of me sort of going around anywhere that was like eyes, mouths, the top, filling in to make it a complete shape, and then painting around with the larger brush. So that's what I did. I've done a nice soft pink. I did a in-between pink, and they kind of look the same when I'm painting on the camera. They actually look identical. There is quite a difference in person. Sometimes when I paint these two pinks next to each other, they kind of do match in with each other, but one is slightly more purpley or darker, I would say, compared to this sort of soft pastel pink that I'm painting now. You might be able to tell the difference, but I did kind of struggle, and I painted them when I watched back this footage because I got them confused as to which one was which pink. So once I'd done the two pink colorways, I also did the red. Now I also, whilst I'm thinking of it, I turned one set into salt and pepper shakers to see how they would look, and I actually didn't get them into the kiln in time. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to maybe put them in the next week reveal. I just was like out of time this week, and not all of them fit in the kiln cycles in time as well, because I ended up pouring I poured like 3 lots of this. So there's 8 in each one. So I had so many of these strawberries. And then by the time I'd thought to do the salt and pepper shaker, it was too late and they hadn't dried in time to make it into the kiln firing. There's a lot of planning that goes into these reveals every week because each firing takes about 12 hours just to heat up to full temperature and then another 12 hours to cool down. So I have to really plan out when I do these reveals so that I can get them out each week. And sometimes things just don't work out. And I had the thought so late on when I'd started this reveal that, yeah. Anyway, I know you won't hate me for that. I'll show you what, like, the process of what they look like. And yeah, maybe I can put them in the next week's reveal so that you guys can see anyway. Maybe I'll do a little cameo in the back or something. So this week I was going to talk about branding, and I had this whole plan to talk about artist branding and why it's still important as an artist to sort of have some form of that. But we're going to talk about that next week because the discussion of salt and pepper shakers and the fact that I completely ran out of time fed into the idea of just talking about how long these videos actually take to make and how long, not just the videos, but how long an artwork takes to make. So I make these videos over a whole week and I condense them into 20 minutes or so. And when I look back at that, I go, oh my gosh, I spent hours on this and it's only 20 minutes worth of footage that I have sped up to keep people's attention, to keep it engaging, to keep the juicy parts there and cull all the boring bits where I'm dipping my paintbrush into the paint again and again and again. So I wanted to sort of talk about how long art takes to make and also maybe throw in some juicy advice. I don't know. I don't know whether it's advice, but I would talk about that, and I would talk about the steps of pottery, the time frame, so that you get a bit of an idea about what goes into these videos and art in general, pottery art in general. The first thing I want to say is social media puts a lot of pressure on artists to keep making finished artworks all the time. They expect you to keep making videos that are going to keep people's attention, content that's going to keep people's attention. They want start to finish results all the time. And I just want to say to any artist that's out there that's watching my videos and going, oh, how are you doing that once a week? Or how are you putting out so much content? Don't romanticize it. It's hard work doing content, and sometimes it takes priority over making work that I'm actually selling, and that's really tricky to balance, and I honestly don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know how I'm doing it right now. It's not the most sustainable thing. And I think with so much social media platform attention right now on video content is that a lot of artists are going, how am I meant to sustain myself while still trying to post here, post there, post that, post this, while still trying to make finished artworks and sell my product online? It's so much to take in. But my number one tip for doing that is to film content that you can reuse as much as possible. That is like the number one thing I think about, is when I film, is it going to be something that I can do for this series and then something that I can reshare later as some sort of other trend or content thing? And think about it in that way as well. And to also stay true to your artistry and don't get so swept up by social media. I know that's really easy to say, but keep creating the artworks that you love and your passion, and then just show the insights when you can. Don't feel the pressure to keep posting content, because a lot of the social media platforms are all about quantity. They want quantity, but I stepped aside from that rule and said, well, no, I'm going to do quality. I'm going to do one quality video a week. I'm not going to keep smashing out content, but if I do, I'm going to do one quality video that I can reuse and rehash in a different way to show a different insight each time. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. I could say so much more about it, but yeah, I could ramble about it for ages, but my advice is so that you don't have creative burnout, especially if you're doing your art as a full-time thing. You do not want to burn out because you're so busy trying to get content out. You need to stay focused on what you're passionate about. Don't let that shift because social media is sort of barking at you to get more content out. Focus on the quality and what you want to get out of doing the content first and foremost. So now I'm going to talk about the pottery process and the timeframes behind it and why these videos take so long. So if you do pottery, you're well aware of this process, but this is for all the people that don't really know much about the process. So first off, there's lots of different ways to make pottery or work with clay. But first off, you want to make your creation, and that might be hand building, wheel throwing, slip casting like in these mold reveal videos. And once you have that finished creation, it takes a little while for it to dry. You've got to wait for it to completely dry before you put it into the kiln, and that time can vary. So if you've spent maybe a couple of hours crafting it, so for the mystery molds, they take a couple of hours from pouring the mold to letting it set to pouring it out, letting it dry out before I can open the mold, then sculpting away the excess and then letting it dry. That takes a couple of hours on its own, and then you've got to wait for the thing to dry. So it can take, sometimes in summer it can take a day depending on how thick or thin the piece is. It then needs, in winter, up to a week, just because it's so humid, not humid, but like so moist in the air. But even on summer days when it's humid, it can take a little while to dry. So you're looking at a week just from getting the piece made to dry enough to even put in the kiln. During that time of drying, I generally start to paint with underglaze. It just depends on the process again, but this is just for my work, is that I start doing the design work, and the design work can take hours. One of these creations in this video probably took me an hour or so. I don't really know because I do them in batches, and I sort of do each step, like I'll do all the color and then I'll do all the eyes and I'll do all the mouths, and it takes a really long time. It takes a number of hours as well, and I'm filming and setting up the camera and moving the camera around to get different shots all whilst I'm doing this. Once that's done, they then go into the bisque fire. So the bisque fire is where it gets dried out, and that can take, in my kiln, which is tiny so it fires really quickly, it takes 12 hours to heat up and then 12 hours to cool back down again. Once that's done, you glaze your piece, which can take up to an hour or a couple of seconds depending on what glaze you're using and what you're doing, and then that then goes back into the glaze kiln to finish its firing and to vitrify the clay, which can take 14 hours in my baby kiln and another 12 hours to cool back down again. And then you sand the bottoms of the pieces to make sure that they're all smooth for use. And then if you're doing video-based content or you're just using social media to share your work, you've then got to photograph it, you've got to bring all the videos together, you've got to do all your promoting, you've got to put on your website, all of this. There's so much that goes behind an artist-based business that sometimes I feel like it gets lost in a consumerism, sort of capitalist efficiency way of people always wanting new, more, faster to keep people's attention. So yeah, I don't really have like a point. It's more just to sort of say it takes a really long time, and don't romanticize the fact that these videos are 20 minutes long. These works in every single video have taken me weeks to make. A lot of the time I have to pour the molds a couple weeks in advance just so that they're dry enough so that when I'm due for that mold that week, it's dried out enough that I can put it straight into the kiln, keep the process flowing, and keep my thoughts in order for each reveal, because each mold reveal I do in 1 week. All the painting and stuff. So I pour them all in 1 week, and then I do each reveal painting so that I can stay focused on each project and I don't get sort of distracted by different ideas and concepts for each one. So yeah, I hope that you really do enjoy these videos, because they do take a really long time and I don't necessarily get paid that well for sharing these. I've only just sort of tapped into the YouTube monetization side, but it does take a really long time. I wish I could do them faster, but for the moment this is what's most manageable and sustainable. And yeah, just don't romanticize these videos. If you're looking at doing art takes time. with that said, I adore, that sounds really doom and gloom, but with that said, I adore making these every week. Like, I wish I could pour them all at once, and I know so many people just want me to pour them straight away and find out what's in every single one, but I think that that's what makes them so enjoyable, is I want to make sure that I give each one its time and place to really shine and show its true beauty from start to finish, and not just pour them all up just to see what's inside. So I have so many more molds to go, so I hope you're enjoying them so far, and I can't wait to keep this series going on for a while. But we're pretty much finished, and I just wanted to quickly show you one of the pink pigments I did was really patchy and splotchy, and I could not get the coat to be really even and consistent. You can kind of see that it's really got like patches of white coming through. I did like 4 coats of this, you probably saw, but I did so many coats and I just could not get it a nice opaque finish, which I think I'm going to be pretty disappointed when I open the kiln, because I really wanted them to be really opaque. But yeah, we'll see. I think that they look really gorgeous right now. They are so lovely, and I'm getting distracted by negatives today. Let's not be negative. They look amazing already. I love the way that they look right now. I'm adding the clear gloss glaze. People have asked me why I do this. This is actually just to protect the piece. I like the finish of gloss glaze. I like how vibrant the colors become. I like the touch of them. When you don't have glaze on them, they can be very chalky. You can get a matte glaze, but they can be a bit precarious to work with. I haven't worked with them myself. I did get like a low sheen glaze, and I didn't really like that much, but the clear gloss glaze is pretty much just to protect it. Yeah, there's lots of reasons you can use it, but for me, that's why I use it. So I dip them in. You can get different types of glaze. You can either get brush on or dip. I get the dip. I used to do brush on. It takes a long time. Brush on's really good if you're starting out and you don't want to buy the big dipping bucket, but or get a big dipping bucket. But yeah, brushing on each one can be really tedious, especially if you're making a lot of works. So when I transitioned to dipping glaze, I thought this is a miracle, better than sliced bread kind of thing. So once they've all been dipped, I go back in with the sponge and sponge down the bottom. You can wax your bottoms. I don't, because I find that that's just an extra step, because I end up sponging down the bottoms with wax anyway. So I just sponge. It's been foolproof. I've never really had an issue with it yet. Like sometimes you might get a bit of debris, but it's nothing bad. Like it just sort of, I don't know, nothing bad has ever happened from this technique, and I've been doing it for like 4 years. So that's my little hack you don't necessarily have to use wax on the bottom of your pieces. I also should mention that I sponge them down so that edge of where I dip in isn't as sharp, and it sort of blends out to a nice smooth finish where the glaze finishes. You can also get kiln stilts, but I just find they take up too much room in my kiln. That's where you can glaze the piece in full, completely cover it in glaze and then put it on a stilt, and then the stilt just comes off. But I just find that that's too tedious for me. So you can do that too. Alrighty, let's see how they turned out. So opening up the kiln the next day, and they're really sweet. They're quite quirky, quite cute. I mean, I am not totally blown away, which you could probably hear in my voice, because I think that the results came out as expected. It wasn't really challenging, but maybe because I've done so many of these now, I am expecting a certain level of wow, because so many molds have wowed that I'm not letting them be what they are on their own. Maybe they just need to exist just because they exist, and I'm just undervaluing what they are. I do really love the red color the most. And when I was doing the red, I thought it might be too much, but I think that the red came out the best. But we'll have a look at them all on their own, and you can see the color comparison between the two pinks. But on the camera, you can see those two pinks are slightly different. It doesn't actually look that different. One's a little bit more peachy, one's a little bit more purpley undertone. I actually shared these on my Instagram story. So I do it on Thursday. I share a sneak peek to the reveal, and a lot of people have a go at guessing what it might be for that reveal. So on my stories that happened this week, and someone actually guessed a strawberry pot. And when I read that comment, I was like, I should have done one where I cut the top off and turned it into like a strawberry pot, or like put a little hole in the top so it could be like a little succulent. The other idea I also had was maybe cutting off the like little top and making it a little like trinket jar or something. It'd be really, really cute. But let me know if you have some really quirky, cool ideas, because you guys always come up with amazing uses. This is just sort of like a wrap up to show you what the different colors look like. So we just had the red, which is my favorite. We've got the apricot-y, peachy pink color, which is really lovely and a crowd favorite for me. And then this was the color that I really struggled with getting the right pigment on. I wasn't completely happy. It reads well on the camera, but it isn't opaque. So here you can see under the eye, you can see it's sort of really splotchy and patchy when you look really close. It passes, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And I think that next time I'll probably maybe even mix the red with this pink. So I've got like a middle tone between the red and the pink. So you've got different varieties of ripeness of the strawberries. But yeah, you can see it really obviously. And then compared to the red strawberry, which is really opaque because it had plenty of pigment on there, and the other pink color. But yeah, just things to work on. And like, I knew this was going to happen. I just sort of I didn't give up. I was just like, I need to just get this done and figure out what's going on with that pigment. It doesn't usually do that, so I don't know why it did it on this piece. Here's a comparison of the two colors next to each other. There's not much variety, like not much difference in them. But yeah, I think they all look really lovely. They all have their own little quirky character. I definitely want to hear your ideas though. What would you use these for? I am really thinking paperweights and salt and pepper shakers at the moment, but you guys have awesome ideas. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and here's your sneak peek for next week. Thanks for watching.